Sie uns einen MG-42-Trupp!
Sagen Sie dem Kommandostab, wir greifen an. Sie sollen Verstärkung schicken.
Panzerkommando und Bunker 6, geben Sie Fliegeralarm, der Feind fliegt Luftangriffe. Ist da jemand? Hallo? Ende.
In the shadows of history, amidst the chaos of World War II, a force emerged that would become synonymous with both terror and tactical brilliance. Welcome back to another episode of Elite Secrets, where we uncover the enigmatic world of the Waffen SS. In our exploration of the most secretive aspects of warfare, we turn our gaze to the armoured divisions of the Waffen SS. These were not just soldiers, they were the vanguard of Hitler's ambition, wielding steel and fire to reshape the course of history. But behind the formidable facade of their panzers and tigers lay a labyrinth of clandestine operations. From the blistering sands of Normandy to the snow-covered fields of the Eastern Front, they fought with a tenacity that defied all odds. So, join us as we peel back the layers of myth and legend to reveal the true essence of the warfare of the Waffen SS. Beyond the clashes of steel and fire, it's a testament to the complexities of human nature amidst the chaos of the world's deadliest conflict, World War II. In July 1943, the SS Panzer Corps led the German Citadel offensive at Kursk with their Panzer IV Model F2 G and H tanks. The objective was to encircle around 1 million Soviet troops, thus regaining strategic momentum in the Eastern Front. As preparations intensified in June 1943, the SS Panzer Corps received substantial reinforcements of Panzer IV Model H tanks. At the onset of the offensive on July 4th, the three SS divisions amassed a formidable force of 422 tanks and assault guns, with 170 of them being Panzer IV tanks. These Panzer IVs formed the outer perimeter of the renowned Panzerkeil, or armoured wedge, around which SS Tiger tanks were concentrated. A significant number of these Waffen SS Panzer IV tanks participated in the pivotal moment of the Kursk offensive, the intense clash of armour at Prokhorovka on July 12, 1943. This engagement, regarded as the largest tank battle of the war, witnessed 800 plus Soviet tanks confronting 650 German panzers. For 8 hours, the battlefield was engulfed in chaos, with tanks engaging each other amidst thick clouds of dust at close ranges, often under 50 meters. Lieutenant Rudolf von Ribbentrop, the son of the German foreign minister, found himself thrust into the heart of the action when the Soviet attack commenced around 10 AM in Prokhorovka. Leading a unit of 7 panzers, he sought to bolster German soldiers besieged by Soviet armoured forces. Yet, they soon confronted overwhelming odds, encircled by a staggering force of approximately 650 to 700 Soviet tanks, predominantly T-34s from the 5th Guards Armoured Army. The Soviets had meticulously orchestrated a major offensive set for July 12th, aiming to obliterate the German vanguard and stem their advance. In the crucible of combat, von Ribbentrop's unit displayed massive resolve, engaging in a desperate struggle that echoed with the thunder of artillery and the roar of engines. Despite facing overwhelming odds, their steadfastness proved formidable. With each salvo, they exacted a toll upon the advancing Soviet forces, trading blow for blow in a deadly dance of metal and fire. Yet, amidst the chaos and carnage, the toll of battle was unmistakable. Men fell and machines crumbled. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield, von Ribbentrop's dwindling band of fellow tankers refused to yield. Surrounded on all sides by the huge tide of Soviet armour, their determination remained unbroken. With only 2 panzers left standing, they faced a moment of reckoning. But in the heart of adversity, von Ribbentrop's leadership shone brightest. With precision born of desperation, he orchestrated a daring breakout manoeuvre, seizing upon a narrow window of opportunity amidst the chaos of battle. As the 2 remaining panzers surged forward, German anti-tank crews provided crucial support from the far side of an anti-tank ditch, their guns thundering in unison to cover the escape. The intense fighting inflicted heavy losses on both sides, with the Germans losing approximately 100 tanks and the Soviets around 400. Von Ribbentrop's valorous actions earned him the Knight's Cross as he bravely held the line against overwhelming numbers of T-34 tanks. Interestingly, the Waffen SS didn't operate any Panthers during the battles of Kursk. However, they did deploy many Tiger tanks. Units like Das Reich and Leibstandarte were notably involved in combat with Tiger tanks during the engagement. During the heavy fighting of Prokhorovka, the Tigers of SS Captain Heinrich Kling's 13th Heavy Panzer Company ploughed through hedgerows and thickets with formidable force. Suddenly, a wave of 60-plus Soviet tanks emerged from a nearby wood and all hell broke loose. The renowned Second Lieutenant Michael Wittmann was present here. His Tiger jolted from the recoil as his 88mm gun swiftly neutralized the first T-34 in its path. Despite the German firepower, the Soviet tanks pressed forward, firing on the move and rapidly narrowing the distance between them. In the fierce exchange, 4 Tigers sustained hits and were temporarily incapacitated, highlighting the intensity and peril of the unfolding battle. Despite enduring 2 hits, Wittmann's Tiger stood its ground without flinching, though his radio operator sustained a wound in the upper arm. With unwavering focus, Wittmann swiftly directed his crew, calling out, "3 o'clock, 300, as a T-34 emerged from the bushes. As the Soviet tank turned its 76.2mm gun towards Wittmann's Tiger, his gunner, Balthasar Woll, reacted with lightning speed. In a flash, the 88mm gun roared to life, and with precision, it obliterated the turret of the approaching T-34, decisively neutralizing the threat. Wittmann's fighting on the battlefield during the intense conflict was nothing short of awe-inspiring. Amidst the ferocity of battle, he emerged as a singular force to be reckoned with. With precision and audacity, Wittmann systematically dismantled enemy defenses, leaving devastation in his wake. His skill and tactical acumen enabled him to neutralize 30-plus enemy tanks, dismantle 28-plus armored guns with precision strikes, and silence 2 batteries of artillery, effectively reshaping the course of the battle. Wittmann's extraordinary courage and decisive actions not only earned him admiration among his comrades, but also instilled fear in the hearts of his adversaries. His legacy as a legendary tank commander continues to inspire reverence and admiration to this day. The beastly Tigers played a big role in the German Kursk offensive of July 4, 1943. The 1st SS Panzer Corps, comprising 3 elite SS divisions, boasted a formidable arsenal of 422 tanks, including 41 Tigers. Once again, these armoured behemoths showcased their devastating combat prowess on the battlefield. One notable example is SS Unterscharführer Hans Mennel's Tiger tank, serving as a troop commander in the 6th Company of SS Panzer Regiment Das Reich. In just 6 days, Mennel's Tiger annihilated an astounding 24-plus Soviet tanks, underscoring the unmatched firepower and effectiveness of the Tiger. Similarly, on July 7th, a massive Soviet armoured counterattack targeted the German advance from the southern shoulder of the Kursk salient at Psyolkny. In this desperate engagement, the lone Tiger tank of SS Oberscharführer Franz Staudinger, belonging to the Leibstandarte's 13th Panzer Company, faced off against a formidable Soviet force comprising 50 T-34 tanks. Despite being outnumbered and surrounded, Staudinger valiantly engaged the enemy, exhausting his entire ammunition supply in a desperate bid to halt the Soviet onslaught. By the time the Soviet armour retreated, Staudegger's Tiger had single-handedly destroyed an impressive 22+ Soviet tanks, a remarkable feat that earned him the prestigious Knight's Cross for his exceptional bravery and valour in the face of overwhelming odds. Following the Battle of Kursk, the Leibstandarte shifted its focus to combat operations in Italy, while the Das Reich and Totenkopf divisions continued to be heavily involved on the Eastern Front. Throughout 1943, the Tiger companies within these divisions demonstrated massive determination and resilience in the face of formidable challenges. In early 1944, the German High Command made the decision to withdraw these 3 Tiger companies from their respective divisions and relocate them to training grounds in Germany. Here, they served as the nucleus for the formation of the new 101st to 103rd SS Heavy Tank Battalions. During the spring of 1944, these newly formed SS Heavy Tank Battalions played crucial roles in the frantic defensive battles along the Eastern Front against numerically superior Soviet forces. Notably, the 102nd SS Heavy Tank Battalion, operating under the 2nd SS Panzer Corps, played a vital role in halting the Soviet advance around Tarnopol in April 1944. However, as the year progressed, the battlefield dynamics began to shift with the introduction of new Soviet heavy tanks such as the Joseph Stalin II. These formidable adversaries posed a significant threat to the battlefield dominance of the Tiger I. In May 1944, during the first major engagement between Tigers and Soviet JS-2 tanks at Targul Frumos, Romania, the limitations of the Tiger I became apparent. At ranges exceeding 1,800 meters, the German tank struggled to penetrate the thick armour of the JS-2. Moreover, several Tigers fell victim to the devastating firepower of the Soviet tank's powerful 12.2 centimeter gun. In addition to their formidable presence on the Eastern Front, Waffen SS Tiger I units also played a significant role in the defence of the Western Front during the summer of 1944. Despite the Allied perception that the Waffen SS deployed hundreds of Tiger tanks in Normandy, the reality was that only 90 SS Tigers participated in the campaign, primarily belonging to the 101st SS and 102nd SS Heavy Tank Battalions. The impact of these Waffen SS Tigers on the Allied forces underscored the effective defensive reputation of the vehicle, particularly in a static role where mechanical unreliability posed less of a challenge. The skill and determination of SS Tiger crews instilled a sense of Tiger phobia within the Allied ranks, leading to a reluctance to engage SS Tigers directly. In one notable instance, a lone Tiger tank held Allied positions at bay for hours as no Allied tanks dared to challenge it. In an effort to counteract this Tiger phobia, General Montgomery took the drastic step of banning British combat reports that highlighted the prowess of SS Tigers, citing concerns about morale. Nevertheless, the British developed a rule of thumb suggesting that it took 5 Shermans to take out a Tiger, with only one likely to return from the engagement. One of the most remarkable feats achieved by Waffen SS Tiger units in Normandy involved SS Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann, widely regarded as the greatest Tiger ace of World War II. Heavy Tank Battalion delivered a devastating blow to a British armoured brigade, inflicting significant casualties and effectively repulsing the entire enemy advance. On June 11, 1944, the 101st Battalion arrived at the Normandy front line, having redeployed from Belgium. 2 days later, on June 13, 1944, Michael Wittmann's command Tiger tank was conducting reconnaissance near a small copse close to Hill 213 when it spotted British tanks of the 4th County of London Yeomanry Regiment advancing through the hazy daylight approximately 1 mile to the northeast of Villers-Bocage. The British 22nd Armoured Brigade, having recently captured Villers-Bocage, was now advancing along the main road toward Hill 213. Concealed in the wood, Wittmann was astonished by the casualness that characterised the British advance, observing as the tanks paused for a tea break. SS Oberscharführer Voll, the gun layer of Wittmann's tank, expressed contempt for the British's demeanour. Wittmann, determined to prove them wrong, ordered his group of 5 Tiger tanks into action. The SS tanks manoeuvred westward down the hill, bypassing the British armoured spearhead, and entered the eastern part of Villa Bocage just as vehicles from the HQ Squadron, 22nd Armoured Brigade, advanced through the town. Catching the British by surprise, Wittmann's tank swiftly destroyed 3 Churchill tanks. Another Churchill tank attempted to engage the German vehicles but quickly withdrew from the uneven firefight to take cover in a nearby garden. Wittmann's Tiger then turned around and ascended the hill to engage the British armoured spearhead from the rear, spotting and destroying the Churchill tank that had sought refuge in the garden. 3 of the 4-man British crew managed to escape on foot, but Wittmann's crew machine-gunned them in the back, killing one of them. Emerging from the wood, Wittmann's Tiger took the rear of the British spearhead by surprise, repeatedly firing into the confused column. Within minutes, his tank had left 13 British vehicles ablaze on the road, reinforced by the other 4 Tigers under Wittmann's command, and, with fire support from 8 additional Tigers, the German armour decimated the British spearhead. In less than 15 minutes, this fierce engagement had resulted in the destruction of 29 British armoured vehicles, underscoring the devastating effectiveness of Wittmann's tactics and the formidable firepower of the Tiger tanks. This engagement became one of the most iconic episodes of armoured warfare in the entire Normandy campaign, solidifying Wittmann's reputation as one of the most skilled and daring tank commanders of World War II.
Schicken Sie uns ein MG-42-Trupp.
Sagen Sie dem Kommandostab, wir greifen an. Sie sollen Verstärkung schicken.
Aufteilen! Feldwebel, übernehmen Sie mit 3 Männern die Flanke. Ich gebe Ihnen Feuerschutz.
Überprüfen Sie die Waffen. Wir wollen diesmal keine Ladehemmungen.
Christian Tykson, his journey with the SS began in December 1931, marking the initiation of a remarkable military career. Renowned for his bravery in battle, Tykson emerged as one of the most esteemed combat leaders within the Das Reich division. Established as one of the most brutal units within the Waffen SS, Das Reich earned a fearsome combat reputation, participating in nearly every major engagement of World War II. The division's prowess was accentuated by its stellar performance under the command of some of the most skilled and dynamic leaders of the German armed forces. During the Kharkov campaign in early 1943, SS Panzergrenadier Division Das Reichs Panzers played a major role, showcasing their tactical acumen and combat effectiveness on the battlefield. Tykson's leadership and fearlessness undoubtedly contributed to the division's success, solidifying his legacy as a revered figure within the annals of military history. On February 11, 1943, Christian Tykson orchestrated a strategic counterattack, marshalling a force comprising his Abteilung 16 Panzers at the time, along with a battalion from the 213th Sicherungsdivision. The objective: to reclaim the village of Privolje, situated to the east of Kharkov. In this intense battle, Tykson deployed his infantry cautiously, avoiding direct confrontation with the enemy until the opportune moment presented itself. With meticulous planning, he unleashed his panzers upon the pursuing enemy forces, delivering a devastating blow that sent them fleeing from the battlefield. In a relentless pursuit, Tykson pursued the retreating enemy, leaving no chance for escape and ensuring their complete annihilation. Throughout the engagement, Tykson remained at the forefront, commanding from his panzer with unparalleled resolve. Despite facing fierce resistance, his leadership inspired his troops to push forward. However, amidst the chaos of battle, Tykson's command panzer fell victim to the onslaught of 3 anti-tank gun hits, yet he continued to drive the momentum of the counterattack. Assigned a very important mission, Tykson and his Abteilung confronted the massive challenge of securing the division's advance through the labyrinthine streets of Kharkov. With the division aiming to exit the city southwestward, they encountered entrenched enemy forces blocking their path along the northwestern edge of Kharkov. It was a critical situation, with the enemy already infiltrating the southeastern part of the city, threatening to encircle the division. Surveying the situation, Tykson discerned the urgent need to confront the enemy's advance head-on, even amidst the urban sprawl. Despite the inherent risks and the absence of accompanying infantry support, he made the daring choice to lead his Abteilung into the heart of the city's western sector. His rationale was clear. Only by engaging the enemy directly could they stem the tide of opposition and prevent the encirclement of the division, which remained positioned to the east of Kharkov. With steely resolve, Tykson and his Abteilung plunged into the chaotic theatre of urban warfare. They methodically eliminated anti-tank gun emplacements and swiftly dismantled enemy strongholds encountered along the way. Each intersection, each street corner became a battleground as they pressed forward in their determination to disrupt the enemy's advance and secure the division's retreat route. Throughout the long day, Tykson's leadership shone brightly as he orchestrated a series of lightning strikes against enemy positions, effectively sealing off areas of the city under enemy control. Their actions not only contained the enemy's momentum, but also provided crucial cover for the division's withdrawal. Amidst the chaos and danger of urban combat, Tykson's tactical acumen emerged as guiding beacons, guiding his men through the perilous streets of Kharkov and ensuring the division's safe passage to regroup for future battles. Field Marshal von Manstein deployed the formidable 1st SS Panzer Corps, brimming with Panzer III Model J and L tanks, to the brutal theatre of combat surrounding Kharkov. Through the bitter months of February and March 1943, amidst harsh conditions of ice and snow, this SS Corps became the vanguard of Manstein's strategic counterattack. Executed with precision and audacity, this maneuver caught the extended Soviet spearheads off guard, enabling the SS forces to swiftly recapture Kharkov and push the Red Army back across the River Donets. As the battles raged on, the arrival of the 1st Panzer III Model M tanks bolstered the firepower of the 1st SS Panzer Corps. These new additions proved crucial, especially in replacing the outdated Panzer II tanks within the 5th Panzer Company of the 1st SS Panzer Regiment. Despite these advancements and the initial triumphs, the battles around Kharkov exacted a heavy toll on 1st SS Panzer Corps. By March 4, 1943, the once potent Das Reich Division found itself with only 11 operational Panzer III tanks remaining, having suffered the loss of all its Panzer VI tanks in the intense engagements. Throughout 1944, the Panzer IV continued to play a major role in the defensive battles unfolding on the Western Front. As tensions mounted in anticipation of the impending Allied invasion of Nazi-occupied France, both the Leibstandarte and the newly formed 12th SS Panzer Division, Hitler Jugend, braced themselves for the inevitable onslaught. When the Allies launched their assault on Normandy on June 6, 1944, the Hitler Jugend proudly boasted a battalion comprising 98 Panzer IV Model H and J tanks, ready to defend against the Allied incursion. Despite facing mounting pressure from Allied forces, the Panzer IV proved its worth in defensive operations throughout Normandy. A particularly notable engagement occurred on June 7, 1944, when the 2nd Battalion, 12th SS Panzer Regiment launched a fierce counterattack against advancing Canadian forces near Karpike. With 50 Panzer IV tanks, they targeted the exposed flank of the Canadians, swiftly driving them out of Buren and Orthy while inflicting heavy casualties. Despite sustaining losses of their own, including 17 disabled or damaged Panzer IV tanks, the Waffen SS troopers claimed victory with 28 destroyed Canadian tanks. However, the triumph was tainted by the ruthless execution of unarmed Canadian prisoners, showcasing the brutal nature of the conflict. Just 4 days later, on June 11th, the Panzer IV tanks of the Hitlerjugend Division achieved another significant victory. The 8th Company, 12th SS Panzer Regiment, led by SS Obersturmführer Hans Siegel, launched a swift counterattack against advancing Canadian forces. Despite losing only 2 Panzer IV tanks, the SS Panzers decimated the Canadian armoured squadron, destroying 37 Shermans and throwing the Canadians into disarray. Among the distinguished tank commanders of the Hitlerjugend Division was SS Untersturmführer Willi Kretschmar, commanding a Panzer IV tank of the 5th Company, 12th SS Panzer Regiment. Kretschmar's prowess in battle was evident as he accounted for 15 Allied tanks during the intense defensive battles in Normandy, particularly around the strategically vital hill 112 southwest of Caen. Despite the valiant efforts of the Hitlerjugend Division and their Panzer IV tanks, they were unable to withstand the overwhelming Allied offensive power. As the German front collapsed in August 1944, particularly during the chaotic retreat from the Falaise pocket, the Hitlerjugend Division suffered significant losses, including the majority of its remaining tanks. By September 4th, the division could only muster 5 operational Panzer IV tanks, underscoring the immense challenges faced by the German forces on the Western Front. By August 8, 1944, SS Panzer Brigade Gross had amalgamated various SS training units in the region, mustering 2,500 troops and a disparate assortment of 23 aging Panzer III and IV tanks, supplemented by 7 Tiger I tanks. Tasked with facing an entire Soviet mechanized cavalry corps south of Libau, Latvia, the brigade aimed to halt the widening gap between the German Army Group Centre and Axis forces in Estonia. On August 20th, the brigade, now bolstered by 5 additional Panzer IV training tanks, engaged in a counterattack that successfully reopened a precarious land link with the isolated German Army Group North, decimating 48 Soviet tanks in the process. Remaining active in the Baltic states until November 1944, the brigade eventually disbanded, providing crucial reinforcements for SS Panzer divisions Leibstandarte, Das Reich, Hohenstaufen and Hitlerjugend during their counter-offensive. Even as the war drew to a close, the Panzer IV maintained its significance in Waffen SS defensive strategies. During the ill-fated German Spring Awakening offensive in Hungary from February to March 1945, the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend lost 32 of its remaining 38 Panzer IV tanks. The 6 surviving tanks retreated westward through Austria in April 1945, eventually surrendering to American forces near Amstetten. Similarly, the last Panzer IV Model J tanks of the 11th SS Panzer Grenadier Division Nordland met their demise during the futile counterattack led by SS Army Detachment Steiner under the command of SS Obergruppenführer Felix Steiner in a bid to relieve besieged Berlin in late April 1945. Equipped with the Panzer IV, Waffen SS tank battalions continued to demonstrate resilience until the closing days of the war. During the latter part of July 1943, following the set pension systems. In late July and August 1943, SS Panzer divisions such as Leibstandarte, Totenkopf and Viking each received a company of these modified Model D tanks. Additionally, the 1st Battalion of the SS Panzer Regiment Das Reich, stationed at training grounds in Germany, was equipped with 49 improved Model D Panthers to outfit 2 tank companies and the regimental staff company. When this battalion rejoined Das Reich Division on the Eastern Front in late August, the performance of these upgraded Panthers was immediately evident, as they swiftly proved their superiority by destroying 53 Soviet tanks on their first day of combat. Responding to the setbacks experienced with the Panther Model D, the High Command introduced the improved Panther Model A into service in August 1943. This upgraded version boasted a ball-mounted hull machine gun, further refined gearbox and transmission systems, reinforced road wheels, and additional coolant tubes to mitigate the risk of engine fires. Between August 1943 and June 1944, German factories produced a total of 1,706 Panther Model A tanks at an average rate of 161 vehicles per month. By the autumn of 1943, with the influx of Model A Panthers into German service, Hitler directed that each Waffen SS Panzer division receive an entire battalion of Panther tanks over the next year to replace their existing Panzer III equipped battalions. This directive extended not only to the 4 existing Waffen SS Panzer divisions, 1st Leibstandarte, 2nd Das Reich, 3rd Totenkopf and 5th Viking, but also to the forming 12th Hitler Jugend division, as well as the 9th and 10th Panzergrenadier divisions Hohenstaufen and Frundsberg, slated for conversion to full panzer divisions. A Waffen SS Panther battalion theoretically comprised 76 Panther V tanks, 4 companies with 17 tanks each, and a headquarters company with an additional 8 Panthers, including 3 command variants. Additionally, the Panzer Regiment Staff Company had 3 more command Panthers, bringing the divisional total to 79 Panthers, including 6 command tanks. During the early stages of the re-equipment process, the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich stood out as one of the first Waffen SS divisions to receive an entire battalion of Panther tanks. However, by December 1943, this division had suffered significant losses, with all 49 of its original Panthers being lost during prolonged defensive operations around Zhytomyr in Ukraine. In response, the High Command made the decision to withdraw the remnants of the division and fully re-equip its 1st Panzer Battalion with Panther tanks. As this refurbishment was underway, the division was redeployed to France, and by the time it advanced to counter the Allied Normandy landings in June 1944, it fielded 62 Panzer V tanks, predominantly consisting of Model A vehicles. Meanwhile, during the winter of 1943-44, the demand for Panthers on the front line left few available for the 9th SS Panzer Division Hohenstaufen, which was still in the process of forming. By March 1944, the division had received only a small number of Model A Panthers. Consequently, when the High Command ordered the Hohenstaufen to the Eastern Front to counter the Soviet advance at Tarnopol in April 1944, the division had to leave its Panther battalion behind at the Meilly-le-Camp training park near Paris, awaiting the rest of its tanks. It was not until mid-June 1944, after the Hohenstaufen had returned to the Western Front to confront the Allied D-Day landings, that the Panther Battalion finally rejoined its parent formation. However, even at this point, the unit had only received 37 Panther Model A and G tanks, representing less than half of its authorized strength. In late 1943, the 11th SS Volunteer Panzergrenadier Division Nordland underwent a significant change in its equipment, receiving Panther tanks instead of the usual Stu G3 assault guns. This shift marked a departure from the division's typical armament. By early 1944, the Nordland found itself under the command of SS Gruppenführer Lieutenant General Felix Steiner's 3rd Germanic SS Panzer Corps, stationed in the northern sector of the Eastern Front along the Gulf of Finland at Narva. The front line in the north had remained relatively stable since December 1941, with minor adjustments despite the Soviet breakthrough of the German encirclement of Leningrad in 1943. However, in early February 1944, the Soviets launched an offensive against the Norland's defensive positions along the frozen Narva River. Establishing a bridgehead south of the Norland's positions, the Soviets began advancing northward, threatening to overwhelm the SS defences. In response to the Soviet advance, the divisional commander deployed his reserve Panther Model A tanks from the 11th SS Panzer Battalion Hermann von Salza, named after the Grand Master of the medieval Teutonic Knights, to halt the enemy's progress. Through the courageous efforts of these Panther tanks, the Nordland managed to check the Soviet advance, preventing a breakthrough. Similarly, in late March, when a Soviet armoured column breached the German defences and reached the main bridge over the Narva at Ivangorod, the Nordland again utilised its Panthers, this time from the 1st Panzer Company, in frantic counterattacks against the superior Soviet forces. SS Oberscharführer Philipp Weil's exemplary courage during these counterattacks earned him the prestigious Knight's Cross. Despite facing overwhelming odds, the 3rd SS Panzer Corps, including the Nordland Division, mounted an epic defence at Narva for 6 months. However, in July 1944, a massive Soviet onslaught finally compelled the Waffen SS to withdraw from the area, marking the end of the defence at Narva. The 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend stands as another significant recipient of the Panther Model G tank within the SS formations. Established during 1943-44, the Hitlerjugend marked the final addition to the Waffen SS armoured divisions during World War II. Comprising primarily of youthful members from the Hitler Youth aged 17 and 18, these soldiers earned the moniker Candy Soldiers due to their tender age. Accompanying them were seasoned non-commissioned officers drawn from the Leibstandarte division, forming a blend of youthful enthusiasm and veteran experience. Within the division structure, the 12th SS Panzer Regiment adhered to the standard layout, featuring one battalion equipped with Panthers and another with Panzer IVs. By the time of D-Day on June 6, 1944, the Hitlerjugend boasted a formidable arsenal of 81 Panthers, predominantly the Model G variant. However, despite this significant firepower, the division endured severe losses during the gruelling defensive battles in Normandy, nearly facing annihilation. In the crucible of Normandy, the Hitlerjugend's inexperienced yet fiercely ideologically driven troops displayed both fervent dedication and brutality. Notable instances include a group of 60 soldiers who defended the ruins of Falaise for 3 days against overwhelming Allied forces, showcasing the division's unwavering resolve in the face of adversity. These young soldiers, driven by their fervent belief in the Nazi cause, fought with a relentless zeal that often led to acts of cruelty, highlighting the complex and morally ambiguous nature of warfare. Despite their youthful exuberance, the Hitlerjugend's combat effectiveness was hampered by their lack of experience in combat, contributing to the division's heavy casualties in the Normandy campaign. In the desperate defensive battles of Normandy, the Panther tanks deployed by the Hitlerjugend demonstrated their formidable capabilities to a remarkable extent. Positioned strategically in ambush within wooded areas, these tanks mitigated the mechanical issues that often plagued them during offensive operations. It was during this phase of defensive warfare that the Panther tanks played a massive role in one of the Hitlerjugend's most remarkable feats of the entire Normandy campaign, the thwarting of the Canadian Operation Totalize on August 8, 1944. Following initial Allied advances on the first day of the operation, General Simons, the Corps commander, directed Worthington Force, an all-arms battle group centred around the Canadian 28th Armoured Regiment, to seize the strategically vital Hill 195. However, as Worthington Force moved forward during the night towards its objective, it became disoriented and strayed far off course. By dawn, the force found itself 4 miles northeast of its intended target, well beyond effective artillery support. Before the Canadian command realised the misdirection of Worthington Force, the Germans reacted swiftly and decisively. Spearheaded by 12 Panther and 9 Tiger I tanks, 2 all-arms armoured units from the Hitlerjugend SS battle groups Wünsche and Krauss launched a coordinated counter-attack on Worthington Force from 3 sides. In a devastating onslaught that lasted less than 2 hours, the SS forces annihilated the isolated Canadian unit, leaving behind a scene of carnage with dozens of casualties and 28 burning tanks marking the positions once occupied by Worthington Force. This resounding success underscored the combat prowess and effectiveness of the Panther tanks under the command of the Hitlerjugend Division, contributing significantly to the defence against Allied offensives in Normandy. The Panther's performance in these engagements highlighted its adaptability to defensive warfare and its capacity to inflict heavy losses on enemy forces even under adverse conditions. Ernst Bachmann's insane actions on the battlefield underscored not only his individual prowess, but also the remarkable capabilities of the Panther tank he commanded. Beginning on July 8, 1944 near St. Lo, he commenced his remarkable feat of destroying enemy Sherman tanks. With precision and skill, Bachmann eliminated his first Sherman, setting the stage for his subsequent displays of tank warfare mastery during this day. The following morning, Bachmann continued his relentless assault on American armour, swiftly destroying 2 more Shermans and incapacitating a third. Despite facing formidable opposition, he persisted, adding 3 additional Sherman kills to his tally that afternoon. However, the massive barrage from Allied anti-tank fire took its toll, forcing Bachmann to relinquish his damaged Panther for repairs at the division's field workshops. Undeterred by the setback, Bachmann quickly acquired another Panther, epitomising the resolve and determination of German tank commanders. He promptly rejoined the fray, resuming his gritty defence against the advancing American forces. Throughout the following days, Bachmann's Panther became a destructive obstacle to the American offensive. As the Americans launched Operation Cobra on July 26, Bachmann found himself once again confronting the enemy onslaught. Despite facing mechanical issues with his tank during a heated engagement, he demonstrated remarkable resilience, skillfully navigating his damaged Panther back to German lines for repairs. Undeterred by the mechanical setbacks, Bachmann returned to the battlefield the next day yet again, facing the daunting task of confronting the enemy alone after being cut off from his company. Nevertheless, he remained undaunted, engaging an entire American column single-handedly. In a display of unparalleled fighting and skill, Bachmann destroyed 9 Allied tanks, despite sustaining significant damage to his own Panther. Despite being hit 5 times and enduring damage to his tank's track and hatch, Bachmann refused to yield, demonstrating extraordinary resolve as he manoeuvred his damaged Panther in reverse to safety. His actions exemplified the determination of German tank crews facing the massive Allied assault. Through frantic repairs, Bachmann's Panther was once again operational for defensive combat the following day, where the SS Panzer Ace added 6 more enemy kills to his tally. Despite sustaining injuries by July 29th, Bachmann found himself isolated from the German front line yet again. Despite the odds, his tank fought its way out of another encirclement, but Bachmann eventually had to evacuate his burning vehicle before reaching safety. Alongside his crew, he navigated their escape on foot back to German lines, a feat that earned him the esteemed Knight's Cross from the German High Command. However, even notable victories like Bachmann's were insufficient to halt the gradual erosion of the German front in Normandy. By late July 1944, Allied numerical superiority had significantly weakened both German defences and their logistical capabilities. The swift progress of the American Cobra breakout was largely due to the collapse of German logistics, elucidating why even formidable divisions like Das Reich struggled to impede the American advance. By the second day of Cobra, Das Reich was compelled to abandon 2 entire companies of Panther tanks due to fuel shortages. This success precipitated the overall collapse of the German position in Normandy by mid-August 1944. After the Allies shattered German resistance in Normandy, their rapid advance pushed into Belgium, bringing them dangerously close to the borders of the Reich itself. In the wake of this devastating setback, Hitler shocked his senior generals with a bold decision to launch a counter-offensive against the perceived weakest point in the Allied front, the rugged terrain of the Ardennes. In the lead-up to the December 1944 German Ardennes counteroffensive, known as the Battle of the Bulge, the German High Command scrambled to rebuild the severely depleted SS Panzer divisions earmarked to spearhead the assault. Despite concerted efforts, however, the 4 SS divisions tasked with leading the attack, Leibstandarte, Das Reich, Hohenstaufen and Hitlerjugend, remained significantly under strength. Each division possessed only a single armoured battalion, typically equipped with a mix of approximately 90 Panzer V and Panther tanks. For example, Das Reich division mustered 58 Panther tanks, while Hohenstaufen fielded a mere 35. Such shortages were so acute that the battered 10th SS Panzer Division Frundsberg could only muster 10 Panthers and was deemed unfit for participation in the offensive. As the Ardennes offensive unfolded, the Waffen SS employed a cunning improvisation involving the Panther tanks. 13 specially modified Panthers were assigned to the 150th Panzer Brigade under the command of SS Standartenführer Otto Skorzeny, a renowned expert in special operations and a favourite of Hitler. These Panthers underwent extensive alterations to resemble American M10 tank destroyers, with additional metal sheets welded onto their turrets and hulls and painted in Allied winter camouflage schemes. The 150th Brigade's mission was to sow confusion and chaos behind American lines, aiming to facilitate a rapid German advance beyond the River Meuse. Initially, the brigade achieved some degree of tactical surprise, but once the Allies uncovered the ruse, the deception proved ineffective. Despite their efforts, the brigade lost all of its modified Panthers and failed to significantly bolster the German advance towards the River Meuse. Following the Ardennes counter-offensive's failure, the Waffen SS units of the 6th SS Panzer Army found themselves thrust back into action without respite. Despite their exhaustion, Hitler's orders were clear. They were to redeploy to Hungary and participate in the Spring Awakening offensive, starting on February 10, 1945. The Hitlerjugend division, for example, saw a slight reinforcement with the arrival of 16 new Panther Model G tanks, bringing its total to 44 Panzer V tanks. However, the respite was short-lived. After enduring 4 weeks of brutal combat against the overwhelming Soviet forces in Hungary, the division's losses were staggering. Out of the 35 Panthers deployed, only 9 remained operational. Yet, even in the face of such adversity, the Panther V remained the backbone of Waffen SS panzer units until the bitter end of the war. As the conflict drew to its conclusion, small groups of SS Panthers, including those from the 11th SS Volunteer Panzergrenadier Division Nordland, found themselves engaged in the desperate last stand in Berlin during April 1945. In one of the war's final Panther actions, the division's last 2 tanks took on a critical role. They led the charge as the remnants of the encircled Berlin garrison attempted a daring breakout from Soviet captivity on May 2nd, 1945. Though both Panthers met their demise in the ensuing chaos, their sacrifice was not in vain. By creating a small breach in the Soviet encirclement, they enabled several hundred troops of the garrison to fight their way out to the west, where they surrendered to the advancing American forces. The Panzer IV Model B King Tiger stands as the last operational tank utilised by the Waffen SS during World War II. This heavy tank represented a logical progression from the Tiger I, incorporating the well-sloped armour design of the Panther. An exceptionally rare vehicle, the King Tiger posed a formidable threat on the battlefield, boasting a lethal combination of firepower and near invulnerability to enemy attacks. Weighing in at a massive 69.4 tons, the King Tiger was armed with the fearsome 8.8 cm, a long-barreled gun capable of striking targets with deadly precision. It carried 84 rounds of ammunition for this main gun, along with 2 MG-34 machine guns for close defence. The tank's armour provided exceptional protection with 7.3 inches of thick turret face armour, a well-sloped 5.9 inches of thick hull glacis plate, and 3.2 inches of thick side and rear armour. Powered by a 700 brake horsepower Maybach HL 230 engine, the King Tiger could reach a maximum speed of 24 miles per hour on roads and 10.5 miles per hour cross-country. However, its voracious fuel consumption limited its operational range to just 68 miles on roads and 53 miles cross-country, despite carrying 860 litres of fuel. Henschel completed the prototype of the King Tiger in late 1942, with the first 3 production models delivered in January 1944. However, the Allied capture of the Kassel factory in March 1945 halted further production, with a total of 489 vehicles completed, including 20 Command variants. These Command King Tigers were equipped with additional communication equipment, sacrificing ammunition storage space. Of the approximately 489 King Tigers produced, around 150 saw service with the Waffen SS, further solidifying its reputation as a formidable force on the battlefield. The King Tiger boasted devastating firepower capable of penetrating Allied Sherman tanks from any angle at distances exceeding 3,500 yards. Its frontal armour, measuring between 5.9 to 7.3 inches thick, made it nearly impervious to attacks from Allied tanks or anti-tank guns. Remarkably, there is no documented evidence of an Allied round penetrating the King Tiger's frontal armour during the war. However, like all tanks, it remained vulnerable to damage to its tracks, and many were lost due to fuel shortages or mechanical failures during German withdrawals. Despite its hardened armour and firepower, the King Tiger was hampered by its weight and high fuel consumption, making it slow and cumbersome on the battlefield. Its mechanical reliability issues further compounded its limitations, leading to its most effective use in static fire support roles. Due to its scarcity, with the number in service peaking at just 219 tanks in February 1945, the King Tiger was allocated to only a select few independent heavy tank battalions. Among these were 3 Waffen SS units, the 101st, 102nd and 103rd SS heavy tank battalions, which operated as corps troops attached to SS Panzer Corps. The first Waffen SS unit to field King Tiger tanks was the 1st Company of the 101st SS Heavy Tank Battalion. In early August 1944, this company received 14 tanks to replace the Tiger I tanks lost during the Allies' Normandy campaign. Despite their hard efforts, all of these King Tigers were ultimately destroyed, either in Normandy or during the chaotic German retreat across France and Belgium in late August and early September 1944. In September 1944, the High Command made significant changes to the structure of 3 SS units, reclassifying them as army troops instead of corps troops and renumbering them as the 501st, 503rd battalions. With the looming Ardennes counter-offensive in mind, Hitler ordered the 501st SS Battalion to return to Germany for a complete re-equipment with the new King Tigers. However, when the offensive commenced, the 501st had only 30 King Tigers at its disposal, falling short of its authorized strength. Despite the popular association of the Ardennes offensive with the King Tiger tank, their actual role in the battle was rather modest. Although the Germans deployed 52 King Tigers in the offensive, nearly 1/3 of the total then in service, their impact was limited. These King Tigers were attached to the Leibstandarte Division, serving in the divisional spearhead known as the SS Battle Group Piper, led by SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Piper. Piper's mission was to exploit any successes swiftly before the Allies could respond. However, the challenging terrain of the Ardennes, characterized by narrow winding roads in hilly and heavily wooded areas, proved unsuitable for the King Tiger's ponderous mobility. Consequently, Piper led his advance primarily with a mixed force of more agile Panzer IV and V tanks, relegating the King Tigers to the rear with instructions to keep pace as best they could. However, they quickly fell behind. Only 10 King Tigers managed to catch up with Piper's spearhead tanks after the battle group's advance stalled near Stoumont on December 20th, 1944. Yet, by the following day, Piper had lost 4 King Tigers and found himself surrounded at L'Église by Allied counter-attacks, severed from logistical support. By the night of December 23rd, 24, his force had depleted its supplies and ammunition, resorting to fighting on foot after destroying its remaining 35 tanks, including 6 King Tigers. Despite the setback of Piper's northern thrust, the German High Command pressed on, shifting their focus to the area around Bastogne as the Allies began to regain ground. Although the town had been encircled earlier in the offensive, determined American resistance, symbolized by the defiant response, nuts from the commander when asked to surrender, prevented its fall. By Boxing Day 1944, the Allies had successfully linked up with the besieged Bastogne garrison. In an attempt to regain the initiative, the German army redeployed the Leibstandarte Division, now equipped with its remaining 17 King Tigers, to Bastogne. Their objective was to assist in the German efforts to re-encircle the town. However, in the intense battles that ensued around Bastogne, the 501st SS Battalion lost another 3 of its precious King Tigers, bringing their total losses in the Ardennes to 13. With Hitler's Ardennes offensive ultimately ending in defeat, the last significant action involving King Tigers in the Western Front came to a close. Despite their formidable reputation, these powerful tanks could not alter the course of the battle, marking the end of their role in the conflict in the West. The deployment of Waffen SS King Tiger tanks on the Eastern Front in late 1944 showcased not only their tactical prowess but also their strategic value in unique operations aimed at preserving the disintegrating Axis alliance. In a bid to ensure Hungary's allegiance to the Axis cause against the Soviets, Hitler tasked SS Standartenführer Otto Skorzeny with Operation Panzerfaust on September 20th, 1944, with Hungary's regent Admiral Miklos signalling an imminent ceasefire with the Soviets. On October 15th, Skorzeny's forces, comprising the 503rd Heavy Tank Battalion, armed with 35 King Tigers and the elite commandos of the 600th SS Parachute Battalion, embarked on a daring coup d'etat to seize control of the Hungarian government. The imposing presence of the King Tigers played a crucial role in the success of the operation, leaving a lasting psychological impact on both allies and adversaries alike. With the haughty regime effectively under Nazi control, the appointment of fascist Ferenc Szalasi as the new leader signalled Hungary's continued commitment to the Axis struggles against the Soviets, albeit with limited effect on the broader strategic landscape of the Eastern Front. However, these fleeting triumphs were overshadowed by the relentless march of defeat. The failure of the Ardennes offensive brought no relief for the battle-weary 501st SS Heavy Tank Battalion, ordered to Hungary with the 6th SS Panzer Army to partake in Operation Spring Awakening on January 12, 1945. The battalion found itself embroiled in another desperate attempt by Hitler to reclaim lost ground. The offensive aimed to recapture Budapest and safeguard the last remaining oil fields still in Axis hands. Despite the formidable presence of the SS King Tigers, their advance soon faltered in the face of overwhelming Soviet resistance. By April 1945, the inexorable advance of the Red Army pushed the 6th SS Panzer Army back through Austria, marking the final descent of the once mighty King Tigers on the Eastern Front. These episodes epitomise the fleeting moments of triumph amidst the gathering gloom of impending defeat. While the King Tigers symbolise German technological prowess and military might, their ultimate fate mirrored that of the crumbling Axis powers, overwhelmed by the relentless tide of Allied forces on both the Eastern and Western fronts. Meanwhile, the 503rd SS Heavy Tank Battalion remained stationed at training grounds in Germany, eagerly awaiting the arrival of the new production King Tigers. By January 1945, the battalion had been equipped with 39 of these formidable tanks and was swiftly deployed to central Poland in a bid to reinforce the crumbling German front against the advancing Soviet forces of the Vistula-Oder offensive. Despite the valiant efforts of both the German army and the Waffen SS, the inexorable march of Allied forces signalled the imminent demise of the Third Reich. The only uncertainty lay in the grim tally of casualties before the inevitable German surrender. Engaged in desperate defensive combat along the borders of the Reich, the 503rd SS Heavy Tank Battalion suffered heavy losses, dwindling to just 2 operational tanks by March 20, 1945. Despite being reconstituted one final time, the battalion met its ultimate fate during the late stages of April 1945, succumbing to the relentless pressure of the advancing Allied forces during the final desperate defense south of Berlin. On March 22, 1945, Hitler committed his last reserve of King Tigers, the 502nd SS Battalion with its complement of 31 tanks, to combat in Bohemia, hoping to bolster German attempts to withstand the final Soviet onslaught on the Reich. However, like their counterparts in other SS battalions, the King Tigers of the 502nd could not withstand the overwhelming force of the Red Army. As April 1945 unfolded, they too fell in battle, unable to alter the course of the war. By May 8, 1945, the triumphant advance of the Red Army signalled the end of hostilities in Europe, marking the culmination of the King Tigers' valiant yet ultimately futile struggle to avert German defeat. In the waning days of the battle for Berlin, a small number of King Tiger tanks endured to defend the besieged city. Among them, King Tiger 314 under the command of SS Unterscharführer Georg Diers stood resilient. On April 18th, Diers's tank, alongside King Tiger 100, received orders to advance from the Potsdamer station toward the Anhalter station several blocks away. Engaging in a fierce day-long battle against Soviet T-34 and JS-2 tanks, they valiantly defended their position before being forced to retreat back to the Potsdamer station, depicted vividly in a painting capturing the intensity of the struggle. The following day saw King Tiger 100 disabled by relentless Soviet tank fire, ultimately abandoned amidst the ruins of Berlin. Despite the odds stacked against them, Diaz and his crew, operating King Tiger 314, claimed the destruction of 39 Soviet tanks during the intense fighting within the city. With Hitler's demise, Diaz's King Tiger joined other armoured vehicles in a daring attempt to break through the encircling Soviet forces. However, their efforts were thwarted when their advance was halted by a German-laid mine, rendering Diaz's tank finally disabled, marking the end of its final stand in the tumultuous battle for Berlin. As we conclude this episode, it's clear that many of the Waffen SS armoured divisions and units were formidable fighting forces, demonstrating exceptional determination in battles across various theatres of war. However, alongside their successes, we've also delved into their failures, including instances of overextension and heavy losses, particularly against the West. Through such reflections, we honour the sacrifices made by those who fought on all sides while also learning important lessons for the future. I'm glad we've had the opportunity to delve into these topics, and I'm eager to hear your thoughts and reflections as well, so please drop them in the comments below. I'm truly grateful for having you join me on this captivating journey today. Your presence and engagement mean a lot to me. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. They make a world of difference in supporting the content I create and sharing it with others who might find it just as fascinating. A heartfelt thank you goes out to all my patrons for their generous support. Your contributions help fuel this ongoing exploration of history and its myriad stories. You'll find the link to my Patreon below, and for daily content, be sure to follow me on Instagram as well. As we bring this chapter to a close, I'm already looking forward to our next adventure together. Until then, goodbye for now, and thank you once again for being part of this journey with us.